Good afternoon, everyone. I am Anushka, and on behalf of EV Reporter and Bolt.Earth, I am delighted to have you all here for today's webinar, Starting an EV Charging Business in India from Zero to Revenue. We would like to thank all of you for making time for us and joining us today. We are thrilled to have leading industry experts with us and who will be sharing their perspectives on the potentials of EV charging business and the associated dynamics and how one can enter the business and get going. We are also joined today by an experienced panel of speakers who will bring deep industry knowledge with us today. We have Mr. Raghav Bharadwaj, CEO founder at Bolt.Earth. We have Mr. Sandeep Bangia, EV charging business expert and head business transformation, e-mobility at Gulf Oil India. And we have Kunal Gaur, VP sales at Bolt.Earth. So before we dive in, let me quickly walk you through how today's session is going to be structured so you can know how exactly we are going to expect the things over an hour. So we'll begin with the fireside chat. In this discussion, our speakers, Mr. Sandeep and Mr. Raghav, will focus on discussing the potential of EV charging business, and the session will be moderated by Priyakshi. Following that, we will have a brand presentation by Boulder, led by Kunal Gaur, on how to get going and start the business. And after the presentation, we'll also open the floor for an audience Q&A, so you guys can feel free to note down your questions. As we go along, our experts will be able to see them also. So we are looking to wrap up the event by 4:15 today. So without any ado, let me first call upon Raghav and Sandeep to kindly switch on their mic for the fireside chat. I would also like to invite Priyakshi, editor at EV Reporter, to moderate the discussion. Please note, this has to be bring to your kind notice that the duration of this discussion will be 25 to 30 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Anushka, and hello, everyone. So, again, very thankful for everyone for making time and joining us today. So, we recognize that the advent of electric vehicle industry has actually opened a lot more doors and brought in new exciting possibilities for entrepreneurs and businesses. And EV charging is one such space where both aspiring entrepreneurs as well as existing businesses can find their foothold and create a new business altogether. And as a platform, EV Reporter, we do receive numerous queries from our readers who are looking to enter this business or looking to assess this space as a business opportunity. And today, with our association with Bolt.Earth and by gracious presence of Mr. Sandeep Bangia, we are happy that we are able to bring this session to you. So let's dive right in. I'll start with you, Mr. Bangia. So you have been in the leadership positions in the EV charging industry for, I think, more around 6 years, maybe more now.
Yes,
And so,
actually, yes. Just 6 years. Yes.
yes, yeah, I was looking at your very prestigious profile, and I could see all leadership positions in the leading companies in India. So, for starters, how do you see the EV charging space as an opportunity area for entrepreneurs?
Okay. So first of all, thanks, Priyakshi, for getting me on this discussion and being able to talk to a lot of people who are interested in this domain. Uh, and also thanks to the Bolt Earth team for putting this together. So first of all, I must say that this is a sector which is a sunrise sector. It is very much unlike a sector which is, you don't know what will happen to that next year, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line. So this is something that you have to be reassured that we are in the beginning of the sunrise sector, which is EV charging. And when I say EV charging, it is to do with the entire electric vehicle ecosystem, the vehicles, the components, the drivetrains, the software related to that, and of course, the big portion is the EV charging. Uh, when we come to the electric vehicle, and of course, the reason is also very simple. I think today there is a huge, and not just a buzzword. This is very clearly a need of the hour. You don't assume that the petrol diesel vehicles will be around for a lot of time because the I would say the carbon emissions through them are really, really bothering you. I mean, you are in, I think, are you in Chandigarh or Delhi? You can really, really feel it when you step out of the house. That's not something that you want to leave behind for the next generation. So, to that extent, I think it is a need of the hour. Apart from the nice things like saves foreign exchange, it reduces pollution. It is the vehicles are fantastic. I mean, if anybody has ever driven an electric vehicle or even ridden in one, you can say that this is why did we not see this ever since I was born? So I think those things are apart. And finally, I guess EV is no longer like something which is good, which is sometime in the future. Oh, आने वाली है, क्या होने वाला है? We are right there in the middle of the revolution. So we are actually in a way very lucky to have experienced both sides of the story and realize that what we were missing was something which is here, and now we really don't want to go back. I have got an electric car. Uh, I mean, I've got another car also, but I leave the other car for the driver, and when I get into this car, I feel like driving it myself. It is so good to drive. It is so convenient. There's all of that. So I think connected to that, the EV charging ecosystem is currently on the upside. There is right now, there's only one way to go, which is up and up. And one final point I always make uh, whenever somebody starts a new business, the new business is also about making money, feeding families, feeding yourself. This is a very noble business. You are not going to sell cigarettes, you're not going to sell tobacco, you're not going to sell liquor. This is something which is a very noble thing. You can sleep peacefully at night, knowing very well that you are doing a good job, and good job for the rest of us, for the rest of the world, and for the planet. So rest assured, this session, I'm sure whatever you're going to pick up, it'll help you to do a good business, and you'll sleep well at the end of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandeep sir. I'll come to Raghav now. Raghav, you, of course, have very, very highly relevant experience as the CEO of Bolt.Earth, working with different stakeholders in the electric vehicle ecosystem. What are your thoughts on the potential of EV charging business for India as an opportunity for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Got it. Firstly, thanks for having me, Priyakshi. And if I had to answer that in one word, I would say the opportunity is tremendous, right? And you can trust me because I'm also in the same business, So uh, Sandeep was saying, if we look at how many EVs are in India today, we are somewhere at a number of about 6.5 million EVs sold already. I think in the last year, about 2.5 million of that was sold, right? Like, so the pace of growth is absolutely incredible, right? If I talk specifically just on the EV charging side, the market is growing at like maybe about a 40% CAGR. And one easy way to understand the potential of this business, right? Like I keep telling people this is that the climate goals that India has set for 2030, by then we would see probably somewhere about 30 to 40% adoption or penetration in the e-bus space, in the four-wheeler space. Those are the targets, right? With what that means is a good 60 to 70% of the vehicles will be sold after 2030, right? Which means that the market is going to continue to grow at that pace, well beyond 2030 as well. And India is a very unique EV market, right? Like it's not very similar to countries in the West, etc. Because we have a really huge two-wheeler and three-wheeler population as well, right? Like most of India gets around in two-wheelers and three-wheelers. If you even look at the ICE world, about 70 to 80% of all vehicles sold in India are two-wheelers and three-wheelers, right? So there's also very unique geographical elements in India. You go to the north, there are a lot of mountains there, so you need to account for the hill penalties, vehicles going up and down. So there's a lot of different kinds of terrains, a lot of different kinds of situations that charging needs to be deployed at in India. And the number one thing I would say for most charging entrepreneurs before they think about getting into a business is to at least understand, what are the components of this business, right? Like, what does that value chain look like? So, whenever anyone says, I want to deploy EV charging, they should firstly think about three things. Like, it's not just about deploying a hardware, it's about deploying the hardware, having some communication software that can allow you to do payments, that can allow you to, do monitoring, things like that. And the most important last concept, which is the maintenance of these charging devices, right? Like, so having utilization, having uptime, these are where the business comes from. So in a nutshell, if you ask me, I would say EV charging is a long-term infrastructure business, right? If somebody wants to make a short-term gain and just get out of it, I think this is not the right business for you guys. But if you're here to like stick it out, fight through the execution over a long term, then it can have tremendous rewards for individual entrepreneurs.
All right, understood. Got it. So, understand it's a long-term infrastructure game, but even looking at that, Mr. Bandia, in your opinion, what kind of entrepreneurs, uh, whether based on land ownership or existing profile of their existing businesses, what kind of profiles, entrepreneur profile will have the best opportunity to create a sustainable business in this space? You're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So I think broadly, uh, there are three or rather four kinds. So three things come to the mind immediately. Number one is somebody who has got existing land, and I'm going to come to what is it that how should you weigh whether you should and what should you do when you get into this business. Uh, First thing is I would say the people who have got existing land parcels or a real estate, or let's say if they are a builder, mall owner, or whatever. Now that's a very different profile. But let us say I have got a piece of land which is owned by me next to my house, uh, or next to my office in small towns or big towns. It's a good starting point because all you need is a place to start a charging business, which is you put up a charger and you're up and running. Now I'll come to the other pieces of what is more important also. So this is the first thing. So you have to have a place, you have to have a land. The good thing is there is no licensing required. You don't have to go to the government and say कि मुझे permission चाहिए या मुझे कोई license चाहिए, nothing. So you just install a charger and you are up and running. So this is one. I'll come to the other pieces separately. Second piece is somebody who has got a retail business, which means I've got a independent coffee shop, or let us say on the street side I've got a dhaba. Okay, I've got a uh, let us say service business, hardware business, yeah, whatever. So good location wise. And I'll qualify that location also because to me that is the most important piece. So this is one piece. So you have don't own land per se, but you have access to land. Your people who are walking into your retail store uh, can take the benefit of charging as well. The third category of people who can do it very logically, logical extension is some kind of a building contractor, a civil contractor, electrical contractor, because they already know what all these things mean. So they just have to find a location and do all those things because this is a know-how driven thing. One is a resource driven, one is a know-how driven. So I already understand electricity business. I already know how to install. I know what power means. I know what uptime means. I just need a land parcel and I'll be up and running, which I can lease. So one is a resource, which is I have a land parcel. One is an opportunity, which is I have a retail store, coffee shop, cinema, kuch bhi, and put up a charger next to it. And the third one is the knowledge based. So all these three things put together is the right set of people who can uh, start something like this. Now there are two kinds. One is I can start very big, uh, in which case I put lots of money into it, which I strongly recommend that people who are first time, not so big, deep pockets, hold on. Uh, so small, which is most of us people in that kind, you will have access to one of these three. If you have it, I think it's a very logical extension that you can get into this with some marginal effort, which is I have land, so I'll borrow the expertise of the people in the electric side. I have expertise electrical, I'll take the land. So all of these things broadly put together qualifies somebody who can do it. One strong, you know, thing which I would urge for, try not to make this as the only business, right? Because I think Raghav very, very correctly mentioned that this is not a business for the short run. You can't get into the stock market in the morning and come back at 20% gains in the evening. It won't happen. So you are in it for the long term. This is an infrastructure business. You are in it for long term. It is not always possible that you will be able to sustain yourself only on the back of I put up a charger and then wait for the customer to come and then I'll make money. It is unlikely that you will be very, very successful in that. Of course, you can. If you have a series of 10, 15, 20 chargers over a period, you will make money. But till that time, I think you have to have A plus B. Today, the vehicles are coming in. The vehicle penetration is only increasing by the day. There will be a time that this charger is going to, be like, वो बोलते हैं ना, वो पेड़ पे लगा होता है पैसा. तो it can serve your retirement needs, but today is not that time. Today you have to do something more in addition to what this business is all about. So I don't know whether I have answered your question
It
broadly.
does. It does. It makes sense. Basically, you have to have a starting point, whether in the form of a knowledge, expertise, or in the form of a resource, and then you go out in the market and connect with people who have rest of the other strengths, and then you combine it all together, and that's how you'll enter a business. And we also understand at the same time, it's not a very short-term game. It requires a lot of strategic planning in terms of location, and so that the utilization and everything can also be secured for the charges, because that's the only way you're going to make money, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Understood. So, Raghav, I would also like to hear from you. So, what are the different ways where an entrepreneur can enter an EV charging business? Is buying a charger and putting it up the only way? And within this, also, I'm sure there will be different levels to it. So, can you help understand that spectrum?
Yeah. So again, before anyone gets into the business, right? Like they need to, like Sandeep sir was also saying, it's unlikely that, if you just deploy a charger and then you're just waiting there for people to come and you expect that, you're going to become a, crorepati. It's not going to happen like that, right? So in order to make that happen also, there are a few steps according to me, right? So the first step is, of course, purchasing the chargers, which is an initial investment, of course, right? However, it also depends on, like, identifying what kind of chargers you want to deploy, right? Firstly, for what kind of location you're deploying, for what kind of vehicle types are you deploying it for, having a very clear idea, and then understanding, like, and all of this comes from the location that you might be deploying, right? Like, so let's say you want to deploy on a highway. It makes more sense to deploy like DC fast chargers, because people would stay only for like a small amount of time there, right? And let's say you're deploying in an apartment complex, people have time there, they can put vehicles for charging overnight. So you have to take the right calls depending on the load available in that location, depending on how much space is available in that location. So many different factors come into it. But even after you do all of this, there's a very important part of discoverability, right? Like that means that, it's kind of like, the way I'd like to explain it is, if you manufacture a product and you list it on Amazon, right? And then people can view your product on Amazon and come and buy it, right? So it's the same thing here. You deploy a charger, once you deploy that hardware, ultimately you have to put it up on a platform, and on some platform that can generate a lot of user base and utilization for you, right? Like, so those are the larger CPOs, so if you integrate your charger with one of the larger CPOs, such as ourselves as well, What that will do allow you to do is, take advantage of the CPO's, like, huge existing customer base, and make sure that your charger is also visible in their network, allowing many people around there to come and charge. The accessibility and discoverability becomes much more easier, right? And again, coming to the last point, which I want to touch on, was again on the maintenance side, right? So there's couple of ways of going about this entrepreneurship journey, right? Like, one is you can buy the hardware from a company, buy, like, get another person to develop an app for you, or, like, have another company do the services for you. But all of this usually takes a lot of coordination, talking to several different vendors, making them coordinate, and it becomes challenging. That's one of the biggest reasons why we at Bolt.Earth as a company, we are vertically integrated, right? So we make the hardware, we make the software, we make the services, we make it completely end to end, so that any person, right, like any charging entrepreneur, if they do have access to a land or some funds, and they want to start a charging business, it makes it much easier for them. There's just one company entity to deal with that can provide them the end-to-end, complete charging solution, while they are able to just focus on, running and maintaining that location. So, and the last point I'd like to add here is, I give this example a lot. In my opinion, EVs are more similar to a smartphone than to like a petrol vehicle, because in the way you think about how they charge, like, for example, most of us would, put our phones for charging overnight, right? And if you're an EV owner today, you would have experience with that. At some point, you would have already put your EV for charging overnight, and you would have started at 100% battery, right? So in a lot of ways, it's a completely different type of mobility. If you're coming from the ICE world into the EV world, these are things that you have to, like, understand first before getting into this business. And also, like I said, there's so many factors that you need to consider before jumping in. So do a lot of research, understand the business, understand the site, understand what kind of footfalls are coming in. It's like a vending machine. You put a vending machine in a place where there's a lot of footfall, it makes you money. You put it in a place where there's nobody, you just lost some money, right? So that's how it is.
Thank you. Thanks, Raghav. So I understand location, of course, is a very big factor in how ultimately your business is going to perform, then discoverability. So overall, if we can list, Mr. Bangia, if we can list the factors that will ultimately determine the economics and profitability of an EV charging station setup, what will those factors be?
Okay, that's good. So basically, I always like to use acronyms, and some of what Raghav also said maybe covers that. So I call it plug, PLUG. Okay, P is place. Most important thing is the place. You have to identify what is the place, and I mean, I would typically like to believe, in my experience of whatever little time that I've spent in this domain, you have to install a charger at a place where the user of the charger can spend some time doing something. Just to give an example, if I put up a charger on a highway, right? The user will be using the charger for, let's say, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. What does he do in that 30, 45 minutes? Please give him a place to sit, or he has to be having access to a washroom so that he can put his car for charging, go to the washroom, sit on a bench, or better still, something to eat or drink, something. Because he has to pass time of that 30 minutes, which he will not, he or she, I mean, I'm not sometimes even thinking of she, because it has to be safe as well. If there is a lady driver who's coming in, you can't just hang around in the place which is middle of nowhere. And it is true for women for safety perspective, but even for men to hang around doing nothing is something which is absolutely looking like a royal waste of time. So if I have an option, I would go to a charger where I can stop, have a chai and a dosa, versus where I don't have these things. So either you go shopping, or you go to a movie, or you go for a coffee, or you go for a dosa, or whatever. But you have to give him something beyond just the charger. कुछ तो करने के लिए चाहिए वो आधे घंटे, पौने घंटे, 2 घंटे के लिए. Most important. That is how the place it looks like. Second is load. PL. L is load. Load means अभी चार्जर लगा दिया, आपने डीसी चार्जर लगा दिया. डीसी चार्जर, most of the places they may not have enough load to be able to put up the charger. So if you apply for, let us say, 50 kilowatt charger, 50 kilowatt is almost equivalent to, let's say, what, 10 2 BHK 3 BHK houses, which we don't realize. So it's like almost like a small building. So that building power may not be available with lot of power companies. So when you go and apply, they may say that we don't have capacity in the transformer. आप 6 महीने बाद आना. It is a very, very likely scenario. Priyashi, you are aware the kind of stuff that we do with the power ministry and all of that. So L is the load. So please be sure that the load is adequately available. Otherwise, all your plans will go for a toss. Charger का पैसा आ गया, charger भी आ गया, the platform is also come, the software is also come, everything is there, but bijli nahi aayi. Majority of the chargers don't get deployed for this reason. So L. Third is utilization, which is PLU, plug. So U is utilization. Utilization means one has to be sure that the location which you have chosen will have adequate utilization, because while you might find that there are some 100 cars passing by, where do you stop is what gets you utilization. Example, and I quote this example very often. Let us say between Delhi and Chandigarh. Chandigarh you are familiar, Delhi you are familiar, or let us say Bangalore to Mysore, or let us say Mumbai to Pune. I'm just giving examples which are possibly familiar to all the people here. Or let us say Chennai to Bangalore. Now, if I am driving from Chennai to Bangalore, and which is equivalent to the two pair cities that I have talked about, I will not need a charger near Chennai. I might not need a charger near Bangalore. I might need a charger somewhere in between, because two things. Number one, I will get tired at that time, because if I leave from Chennai, it'll take about 2 hours for me to get tired because of the driving and all of that. So that is the time I'll just wait for air to stretch myself, and that is the time I'll feel like charging. And by which time the car will also have discharged a bit. But if you give me a charger next, just outside of Chennai outskirts, I won't be happy. If you give me a charger next to, let's say, near Chandigarh, I won't be happy. तो मैं बोलूँगा अभी तो मैं घर पहुँच जाऊँगा यार. Let me just relax myself. But if you give me a charger, let us say at Murthal, which is bang in the middle of these locations, I've got a fantastic place to charge. I've got fantastic place to eat parathas. I am tired, my vehicle is tired, my family is tired. So utilization will be higher at places which are possibly at midpoints, and at places where you have something to do, eat, or whatever. So this is utilization. Because please understand, utilization is the only thing that matters, and that's the only thing that gets you the money. Otherwise, you have a statue which is there, everybody looks at it, but nobody uses it. Nobody even stops by it. So you don't want that. And finally, I think plug is G, governance. So what is governance? One thing which Raghav mentioned is the platform. So you have to have discoverability. आपका चार्जर लग गया है, लेकिन कहाँ लग गया किसी को पता ही नहीं है. क्यों? Because everybody looks at the charger through the app. There is no board, there is no hoarding, there is nothing like that. So you have to have a reputed platform to which you have to sign up. Let's say in case of two-wheeler, Bolt is a good platform in that sense. In three-wheeler, four-wheeler, there could be third-party platforms like, let's say, uh, Pulse Energy or Electrify, which is a group company of Gulf Oil, or Tata Power, or GOBP, or anyone. I'm not naming one versus the other. So that when you get onto the app, you are able to find your charger. And if I am the customer, if I am the user of the car, then I can locate this charger on a app. So this is governance part A. There are two or three more things. The other thing is the uptime. You have to ensure that the charger is always up and running. And uptime has got two components. One is power, and second is telecom network. Because if telecom network doesn't come, then your charger won't even show up on the app, which is apart from, let us say, the hardware. और charger में कुछ खराबी हो गई तो, so it's like you going to a petrol pump and you don't find petrol, you will be extremely worried going to that petrol pump again. So if the uptime is not very high and the customer goes to this charger and does not find it working, your reputation is lost forever, because he has reached you because he has got less charge. So he is already worried कि मेरा चार्ज खत्म होने वाला है, और आपका चार्जर नहीं चला तो बॉस अगली बार वो आपको कभी ट्रस्ट नहीं करेगा. So uptime is a very, very important part of the governance. So when I say uptime, I talked about this um, discoverability. Then finally, I think, yeah, that's most of it. Uptime and discoverability, and within uptime discoverability, it is power, network, and hardware. Yet all these three things. So this is what my formula, which is plug, place, load, utilization, and governance. That's
Understood.
my mantra for comfort. And I think Raghav mentioned, and you also mentioned it. I think this is not a business for gold rush. मतलब सब लोग कर रहे हैं तो चलो अपन भी कर लेते हैं. आजकल मोमोज चल रहे हैं तो सब लोग मोमोज ही खा रहे हैं तो मैं मोमोज का स्टॉल लगा लेता हूँ. वो नहीं होता है. So you have to be in the long run. You have to be playing in the long term, and you have to play your cards right. आपके पास बहुत अच्छी लैंड है, बहुत बढ़िया लैंड है. It's good enough for a bungalow, but it may not be good enough for a charger. Location matters. And this is not a, as I said, gold rush. बोलते हैं ना, वो नहीं है. This is not a get rich quick. चलो यार, अपन चार्जर लगाते हैं, कल से पैसा आना शुरू हो जाएगा. That, I mean, I'm seeing the Bolt team nodding their heads very strongly, because I'm sure they're exposed to this. So this is what my formula, plug. I hope this helps.
Yes, absolutely. It helps. It sort of puts it all together and makes it easier to consume also. And remember for
भूलेगा नहीं,
later.
कोई भूलेगा नहीं.
हाँ कोई भूलेगा नहीं. Plug, yeah. Got it. So thank you so much, Mr. Bangia, for that insightful talk and your valuable perspective. We also have a couple more questions, but I think we have to be little mindful of the time. Raghav, I wanted to quickly really ask you the last question because we have received this multiple times during the registration process also. That is whether EV charging entrepreneurship is suitable for people who are living in tier 2 or tier 3 cities as well. So I really wanted to clarify this before we move on to the presentation.
Yeah, so if you ask me, I think it depends, right? Like again, in the tier twos and tier threes, you might see the penetration of four-wheelers to be slightly lower, right? Like compared to maybe some of the metros. However, if you go and look at the two-wheeler and three-wheeler adoptions, they are pretty high still. If you look at a state like Uttar Pradesh, it's leading in the three-wheeler sales in EVs today. And as of right now, India is the largest EV three-wheeler market in the world. Just last year, we overtook China as well, right? So it depends, right? Like you have to identify the market that exists in each of these cities, understanding like what are the right locations. For example, in the three-wheeler side, there might be a lot of three-wheeler cargo fleets and a lot of fleet operations. Fleet operations are always a good bet for anyone starting an EV charging business, if you ask me. It's a slightly tougher business, but it's very high utilization, right? Because on a fleet side, the vehicles need to keep running, right, constantly. So what that does is, it allows you to set up a charger and also set up like maybe certain minimum utilization guarantees, from the fleet operator. So ensuring that you always make a return on that charger over time, right? So it all comes down to identifying the right market that exists, identifying, what kind of customers require charging, right? Like what is their charging requirement, right? That's the first question we need to be asking, right? Like, and it's if they are looking to do public charging, are they looking to do it for two-wheelers, for three-wheelers, or for four-wheelers? In each of these cases, the way to approach it is completely different. What kind of location are you planning to deploy it at? Are you planning to deploy it at like a home location or like an apartment complex? Are you planning to deploy it in anything that, what I call real estate, right? Like, and what I mean by that is any location where like a vehicle can be parked for like more than a couple of hours, right? So imagine places like schools or colleges, or like malls, and like Sandeep was also mentioning, right? Like there are so many different kinds of locations. It could very well be like a cricket stadium. A lot of people go to those places. So all of these public locations, metro stations, and we, from our own network, we've seen like chargers that we deploy at like a metro station usually have like really high utilization, because they're providing like these last mile capabilities as well, right? So these patterns are starting to emerge now. Okay. And we are seeing similar patterns emerge in the two-wheeler and three-wheeler space in tier twos and tier three cities as well, right? Like, so in fact, if you ask me, for people living in a tier two, tier three city, the cost of petrol probably, is worth more to them, right? Like, and in the sense that switching from ICE to EVs makes much more sense to someone living in tier twos and tier threes, because they get to save a lot more money in that sense on a day-to-day operations basis, right? Like, so we are seeing that adoption increase there. But yeah, the trends are all filtering, I would say, from the metros to the tier twos and tier threes, but it depends. They're all different markets. You got to identify and solve that critical need for each city.
Got it. Understood. So effectively what we are saying is we cannot generalize whether it is good for tier two or tier three. So based on the kind of resources you have and based on what kind of penetration and EV sales that particular a city or that region is seeing, you will have to make a decision according to that.
Exactly. And that's the reason why I gave the example of UP, right? Like, so if
Correct.
you look at the number of three-wheeler EVs in UP, it is more than all of India put together, maybe. So UP may you have to do something in the three-wheeler space. If you come somewhere else, you might have to do something else, right?
Got it. Understood. So, Raghav, and Mr. Sandeep, there are a lot of questions you would see that are coming in on chat, on Q&A. I would first of all request all the audience members, any questions you have, please put them on the Q&A box so that it's easier for us to sort of manage them and get back to them. And our panelists can all see the questions you are putting in the Q&A box. So during Kunal's presentation, if they might be answering some over chat, and some will try and take during the 10-minute session for Q&A that we have specifically. So thank you so much again, Raghav and Mr. Bangia, for your time. I'm sure the audience gained valuable perspectives from this session. And over to Anushka to introduce the next segment of the webinar. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone, Mr. Bangya and Mr. Raghav, and Priyakshu for moderating for those insightful perspectives. I'm sure our audience now has a much clearer understanding of EV ecosystem. Now, moving on to the next segment of today's webinar, we now have a brand presentation by Bolt.Earth. I am pleased to invite Mr. Kunal Gaur, VP Sales at Bolt.Earth, who will now be giving a brand presentation. Over to you, Kunal.
Thanks, Anushka. Hello and welcome everyone. We'll be basically also in a way summarizing a lot of discussions that Mr. Raghav and Mr. Bangia had around the EV charging business and possibilities across the country. So you will basically be hearing a more of a structured step-by-step process and a step-by-step guide on how to set up and scale an EV charging business in India. And the goal is to set up the business to generate revenue. That's the end goal of any business, and that will be the focus for us to also drive during this entire discussion. Just a small introduction. So I'm the Vice President of Sales at Bolt.Earth. We have been doing multiple EV charging deployments across the country, which makes us into a good position to deploy a lot of chargers that focus on business generation and revenue generation. I'll also be showcasing after these steps on what values we can add in and as a partner for EV charging deployments across the country and what we have been doing across the country till now. The first and foremost step for anyone to set up anything in case of any business development is to understand the market. Why are we even entering into the EV charging business? Like the panelists already discussed, we have around more than 6 million EVs as of road till date in India. These are the number of two-wheelers, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, buses, truck combined that are running on electricity. And what we have seen over time is that this market is growing at a growth rate of more than 40%. Just for the business mindset people who are here, we have seen the gold rush that's happening for gold and silver prices in the last few months. If you actually see this entire rush over the average growth rate over the last few years, that will be around somewhere around 30 to 40%. So we are seeing more of a growth in the EV segment in the entire next 5 years of journey in the EV ecosystem than what we have seen in the entire silver and gold rush in the last few months, which makes this one of the most attractive form of B2B investments or business investments that we see for anyone, irrespective of the investment potential or the place they come from. Just to also show some insights, by 2030, we see more than 80 million EVs to be on ground in India, and the market potential will be around $150 billion. That's a humongous market that we are tackling, and we are basically becoming the backbone of this entire EV market by basically becoming the electricity that runs in these vehicles, and we are supplying this electricity with our charging infrastructures. Now that we understand why EV charging business is actually one of the core businesses that happens in the EV ecosystem, we will start with the most important vertical of this entire EV charging business. Where do you place your charger? Like also we discuss in the plug acronym. First, the location is where do you install your chargers. So what we see in general form, every parking that where you can park your vehicle becomes a charging zone if you provide the right electricity availability in these locations. So to segment it out on the use case basis, we have places like workplaces and residencies where employees come, where residents live. These basically provide charging locations where you stay overnight or you work and you charge your vehicle in these locations. We also go to malls, hospitals, and retail outlets and other commercial locations to have fun, to spend some time with our families, to shop around. And we convert all of these locations into charging zones for the customers that come to these locations. Or there can be dedicated fast charging fuel pumps or similar to the petrol pumps that we had till now. These are on the go charging for people who are on the rush and want to charge their vehicle quickly when they're traveling intercity, or we see a lot of hyper local deliveries happening across the country. They require on the go charging at a faster pace. Once we are understanding the parking in the right way, we understand that what is the use case that we want to set it up for. Is it for our residents? Is it for our employees? Is it for the customer? Is it for a cab service? Is it for on the go charging for buses? Once we understand the parking, we have to make a right decision, which is one of the most important decisions in making the capital investment in the charging business, which is the parking time versus the charging power. Longer parking times basically means we are parking in these locations for up to 4 to 6 hours. These are generally for residencies or offices or malls. And here the charging power generally are on the lower end because we have good enough time to fill up the vehicles in this given timeline. This basically becomes the best speed versus performance ratio for EV charging. You don't invest a lot of capital in EV charging while still generating a lot of revenue from EV charging, while people also add a lot of value to your business. So let's say you are a mall and you have people coming in to charge their vehicle. They also do shop around and they also do eat around in your malls, which again add a secondary revenue from charging separately. There are also form of short charging times where people are on a rush and they do not want to wait for longer durations. We consider them charging less than 1 hour. These generally are super fast chargers. They have chargers for four-wheeler that start from 30 kilowatt charging, goes up to 240 kilowatt charging. These are for places where people want faster turnarounds, and these are the highest form of revenue generation that can happen from EV charging in the shortest amount of time. So if you want to generate quick top-ups of revenue from EV charging, fastest form of charging is the right way to go. Once we understand the parking, we also understand the charger. We basically have an estimate of how much capital we'll be locking in into the EV charging business. This is where we have to work on the business model. This sets the right expectation of business goals that we want to achieve. How much revenue are we going to generate? What is the profit margin going to be? When do we break even on the chargers? Which employee or residents or customers can use the charger? How are these charging going to be a revenue set for your entire existing business? This is where you set your price per unit. This is where you set your access control. This is where you generate some form of projections for the EV charging business to become into a long-term revenue generating asset that is also generating revenue in a predictable format. This becomes the core revenue generation model for the entire EV charging business. Once we see that we can make a sustainable business with predictable ROI, we also have to attract the right type of customer. Everyone needs marketing, everyone needs awareness. People who are using their EVs to and want a place to charge should be able to locate your charger clearly. On the offline side, that basically means having a good enough visibility on the chargers, having proper signages, keeping proper discoverability of the chargers so people can navigate to the chargers in a busy parking, let's say in a mall where there are thousands of parking slots available. How can someone see if there's a charging zone here? To have clear boards, clear signages, and clear discoverability to show that there's a EV charger here, that basically can increase the utilization and visibility of the charger exponentially. Continuing to the offline visibility, there's a larger chunk of customers that actually rely on online visibility. Like today, when we want to go to a mall, we just search on Google like the mall near me, or we want to go to a McDonald's near me. This is how users basically want to search nearby locations. And the same happens for EV charging. There are dedicated EV charging platforms where Bolt.Earth is India's leading EV charging platform, where we basically can unlock your chargers to more than 3.9 lakh users across the country. That basically means as soon as you host a charger digitally on Bolt.Earth's platform, you get direct access to 3.9 lakh users. Any user in your vicinity will already see the charger as one of the toppest performing charger in this area and will basically come to these locations to basically increase the utilization of these chargers. Once we have the charger, the parking, the business model, the marketing, and the visibility done, your business starts generating revenue. And when you start getting in customers, one of the most important thing is to make these customers into loyal users. We always will have seen us and maybe our parents and our grandparents having preferred petrol pumps. They will go anywhere, but they will have a few petrol pumps where they will always go to top of their vehicles because they are aware about the how the petrol pump functions, what are the people there, and they do not see any surprises in their entire experience. And that's what customers want. Customers do not want random surprises, they want better experience. And that's when giving them a dedicated place to wait, dedicated place to eat, maybe a washroom, maybe a utilization zone, is something that basically increases their comfort and becomes the loyal customer of your charging hub. In this case, you also need to show how to use the charger in the right way, have dedicated display and utility boards, do's and don'ts, and how to use the charger in the right way, what not to do. That basically makes sure, because this is a new technology, it's basically people are also using it on a very early level as of the state. It makes it very easy for them to use the charger and make no mistakes that basically can hamper their AV charging experience. Here, once you unlock the customer experience in the best way possible, you lock in your customers into loyal tenants. Once we understand all of these steps, what we see is from step 0 to step 6, there are multiple nodes. You have to do multiple different things. And Bolt.Earth has been doing all of these things across the country for last 8 years. We have done more than 1 lakh chargers deployment across the country. Just a reference point, India has around 95,000 petrol pumps. So we already have more chargers than there are petrol pumps in the country as of this date, and we are just starting out. We have covered 1900 plus cities, out of which in India there are actually total 2000 cities where there are EV charging or EV registration done. So we already have coverage over 95% of these geographies where EV are present. We dispense around 6.1 thousand megawatt hours of energy, and we have 3.9 lakh users who basically are using our infrastructure daily to charge their vehicle. That's 1 in every 6 EV user who is having an EV is using Bolt.Earth to charge their vehicle. Given that we have step 0 to find a location to step 6 to where you provide the best experience, we can help you in each and every step. The current way of deploying chargers are twofold. Either you go with an individual vendor for each location, you buy a charger from a different vendor, you ask a different electrical person to install the chargers, you use someone's app, and you also get someone else to do a marketing. Basically makes you the project coordinator among 6 or 7 vendors, which becomes a nightmare to actually run the business profitably and to be stress free about its business and make it into a passive revenue stream. To do that, we have basically created India's largest vertically integrated EV charging platform, where end-to-end support can be provided, from doing your site feasibility test to providing you the industry-leading hardware, to provide you industry-leading software support, to do the entire end-to-end marketing offline and online, and to basically provide you on the right do's and don'ts, SOPs, and different customer experience enhancement tools that makes us your single partner in the entire journey. We have been doing this for Indian EV users for last 8 years, and we basically are now India's largest EV charging network in this case. We also provide 24/7 customer support, so anyone at any time of the day for the cross entire year can call our support network to get any problem resolved, be it the host or be it the user. And all of our charges that we provide are industry leading, with all industry leading certifications and licensing to give the best charging experience at any time of the day. Just to also put this entire discussion into context, what and how it works and what are the break evens that anyone can see. We recently deployed an EV charging station for a partner in Kalyan. The partner's name is Sairaj, and they've decorated the charger in a very beautiful way. They basically are generating around 60,000 rupees of monthly revenue from EV charging. That basically generates an overall profit after deducting the electricity cost of around 40,000 rupees. This 40,000 rupees profit is basically coming from an initial investment of 8.03 lakhs. That basically makes the entire EV charging break-even period to be less than 22 months, which means the entire charging infra of a two-wheeler fast charger and a four-wheeler fast charger can break even in less than 2 years. And from that day onwards, the entire asset, the entire infrastructure becomes a free cash flow generating asset for them. And they start earning a lot of profits without actually worrying about break even after 22 months. This revenue that is coming into this infrastructure is actually higher than what their existing business used to do. And now they are expanding into multiple such locations across Maharashtra. This is just one of the case studies, and we have thousands of such deployments done across the country. We would love to share more as we move ahead in our discussions on an individual basis. If anyone wants to get in touch with us to get a similar deployment done, we will of course love to give you a free consultation on how we can do it for your custom requirements.
I think we can come to the Q&A now.
All right.
So a lot of interesting questions have come, and one that caught my attention was about listing of new EV chargers on the networks of CPOs. So there's a question that says, how open would a large CPO be to listing a third-party charger on its platform? Like, what would be the incentive for them? Mr. Sandeep, can you help us understand this?
Yeah, okay. So this is interesting. I think having worked for the large CPOs, I can tell you that the biggest challenge for them is finding a location, finding money to deploy a charger, and you are doing it both for them. So all they need to do is put up a platform and discoverability. They will charge you a small amount of money. So let us say for a car charger, about 20 rupees or 24 rupees is what you charge. So they will charge you a small amount of money, like one, two, three, four, whatever, depending on the location or how important, how uh, how critical that this location they find. Uh, and whether you allow them branding, not allow branding, and all those things. I think they'll be more than happy because you have already done the heavy lifting for them. चार्जर आपने लगा दिया, लोकेशन आपने ढूंढ ली. Basically, you have taken the capex load, you have taken the location load. So they'll be very happy to put up chargers. Uh, and there are various models that can work. So, I mean, you can just offer a location. You can go to people like, let's say, Bolt or any other CPO who will come and deploy, and then they'll tell you how much they'll pay for that particular location, as the example that Kunal was just giving. So I think this is an option worth exploring. And I personally believe that a lot of CPOs will be open to it because everybody wants to expand their network, and this will become a part of their network in some ways.
And does it have to be a one-to-one relationship? Or, for example, if an entrepreneur they put up a charger, they can list it on multiple CPOs platform as well.
I'm not sure whether multiple CPOs is always a good idea. You got to figure out who are the popular CPOs in your area. Where are the other chargers and all of that? Which are the popular CPOs in your area? Because most likely the customers will have apps of those CPOs, and the big ones are typically the safe ones. Uh, and Bolt is one of those in that category. Large spread, large network, and all of that. So I'm not going to suggest one versus the other, but I think big CPOs always have an advantage because they've got so many chargers. Any customer who's going from distance point A to point B is very likely to find one or two or three chargers from that particular CPO. And now, of course, these days there are lots of aggregators also. So, like Electrify is there, like Pulse Energy is there. So those people will take up the charger location and give you the same discoverability as Kunal also just spoke about.
Understood. Thank you. Kunal, there is a question for you as well, and this is regarding solutions that can be offered to fleet operators. So, what kind of, if you can guide us, what kind of solutions can you as Bolt.Earth offer to fleet operators, and for them in terms of investment, ROI, if you can give out some figures to give a better idea?
Yeah, thanks, Priyanshi. And yeah, I just saw the question. So basically, fleet operators are one of the largest segment users for EV charging. Why any fleet is basically moving towards EV is that firstly they reduce their commute costs. When you drive a petrol vehicle, you generally have a commute cost of around 10 rupees per kilometer. If you just move from a petrol or an IC engine vehicle to a EV, you reduce that cost to 1 rupees a kilometer or at max 2 rupees a kilometer. That's at least a 5x saving in your electricity, your fuel cost. That's the cost of running that commute cab service business or fleet business. How do we provide a right solution for these use cases is cabs generally require super fast charging. They cannot have super high downtimes. Let's say if an employee transport system is running with 50 vehicles, all these 50 vehicles should be up and running for whenever the demand comes from the service provider requests, correct? So they need super fast charging where we have chargers that start from 60 kilowatt. We have 120 kilowatt chargers that can charge any of the four-wheeler cab services in less than 45 minutes. So if you are just going for a round trip of let's say 50-60 kilometers, you can actually do it in less than 20 minutes. So first is the super fast charging hardware. Second is because fleet operations have multiple drivers and there's a fleet manager, there's a lot of systematic management around who is using the vehicle, how much utilization is happening for the particular use case, multiple different reporting that has to be done, multiple different management has to be done, this billing that has to be done for individual riders. A lot of management tools are required where we also have a system grade solutions for these fleet operators. So they basically set up the hardware. They also get the entire stack where they can manage on a single platform, which driver is using for what energy consumption and how much emissions they are saving, how much electricity they are consuming. That basically becomes one of the core fundamental reporting framework that they need to give it to their vendors. Because when you work for someone, they ask you how many cabs you are running, what is the uses of electricity and all these things, correct? That matters a lot. And of course, reliability and uptime, where we basically also focus a lot on service support network. If you have a cab service that's basically relying on your chargers, and if the chargers go out for like 5 hours, basically all of these 50 vehicles will go defunct. So you need to have a super high reliable infrastructure reliability in both in terms of technical reliability and in terms of manpower reliability. If something has to go wrong in the charger, you already should get awareness about the infrastructure readiness, on the CMS, on the charger, on the app, everywhere. Correct. There should be alerts going on how the charge is going down. And if support is needed, as soon as possible, someone should come here, repair the charger, make some way I can charge the vehicle. So a lot of focus is on support. So that's how we basically provide the three vertical support for fleet operations. It's the hardware, it's the technology, and it's the support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kunal. I hope, I don't know who asked that question. I've lost that. But yeah, I hope it answers your question. Raghav, there's a question for you in the Q&A box, and it says, which segment do you think will drive the growth faster? Like home charging, public charging, or fleet charging?
Got it. Yeah, I mean, see, the if you look at the usage patterns of EV charging, right? Like, and this is common knowledge. If you go to maybe a country like a Norway or a China where the EV adoption is a bit higher, also, you will also see the same thing, which is that almost 80 to 90% of people who own EVs, and 80 to 90% of the time, they charge their EV either in their home or in their office, right? uh, Only in that rare 10-20% of the case they do public charging, right? Now if let's say there is a apartment complex where you have deployed like a few chargers, most likely what is going to happen is almost every EV in that apartment, if the charger is compatible with that vehicle, they will probably charge in that location only for until forever, pretty much, right? Like, and but that is really important to keep in mind, though, right? Like, but what ends up happening is that most people, when they buy an EV, a lot of times they get a charger bundled with their vehicle, right? And sometimes the OEMs also just deploy that charger in your basement or wherever you're parking your vehicle. But that is more of a private use case, right? Like, so people are just using for themselves. Uh, but in many cases, what also ends up happening is in an apartment complex, you don't really have a individual charger in all the basement parkings, but you have a community level charging. So that is definitely one location which will grow absolutely fast. The other location I would say is like workplace charging. People go to office very regularly. Again, think of it in a way where are vehicles parked for a long time? Put a charger there. Okay, that's the place wherever the vehicles are parked for the longest. Those are locations that will grow faster.
Okay, and there's another important question on interoperability. A lot of people have this question because especially when it comes to two-wheelers, there are Type 6, Type 7 type chargers, right? Now there's a question that says, as an Ather user, it would be inconvenient for me to have a CCS2 to Type 7 adapter for, let's say, DC fast charging. I don't know whether one exists. So they're asking, is this kind of technology feasible? Can I use uh, some other type of charger to fast charge my Ather that is essentially a Type 7? How does
Yeah,
that
so
work? Yeah.
yeah, as of right now, that would not be possible, right? Like, and there's a reason why there are different connector types for two-wheelers and for four-wheelers, right? So today in the four-wheeler space, all the four-wheeler EVs, any EV you buy, everything has a CCS2 connector. Okay, it has completely standardized, so you can go to any charger anywhere. There is no problem. Okay. On the two-wheeler side, there is still a problem because half of the OEMs operate on Type 7, half of the OEMs operate on Type 6. Now, the standardization of this, if you ask me, at some point it will happen. But as of right now, it looks like it's going to take some time, okay? Because half of the OEMs are literally, they're all split down the middle, right? Like, so it's going to take a lot of convincing for both the sides to eventually figure out like one standard and just go with it. But there's another challenge with that also. Two-wheeler battery sizes are like really small, and four-wheeler battery sizes are like really large. Okay, and the power rating of the chargers are completely different. Okay, so even a fast charger for a two-wheeler might be a 3 kilowatt charger, right? But like a fast charger for a four-wheeler might be a 30 kilowatt, 60 kilowatt, 10 times more power, right? So that's and all of these connectors, protocols that are being used, they're all based on these electricity standards, or like the amount of electricity that's flowing through these machines, right? Like, so for a four-wheeler, you can obviously understand that there's so much more power gushing through it as compared to a two-wheeler, which is why you can't really combine these much very easily, right? Like, so having that, type 7 adapter to a CCS2 might be very challenging to do in general. But the good thing is that's the reason why we launched our new product last year called Blaze DC, which comes with both a type 6 connector and a type 7 connector. If you want to have like both type 7 connectors, that's also possible. So whatever it is, right? Like, so we launched this product understanding that the market hasn't settled, understanding that standardization needs to happen, and that many users, like the person who asked this question, are facing this problem today, right? Like that, for two-wheelers, there is no fast charging network available. For four-wheelers, you can go and charge anywhere today. There are many apps, on the two-wheeler, three-wheeler side, there is no fast charging network, and we've built the first universal fast charging product, and we've deployed like about 500 of these across India now. So in the coming years, we aim to deploy a huge fast charging network for two-wheelers and three-wheelers as well, along with the four-wheeler network that we operate. We plan to have fast charging available for everybody very soon.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Kunal, there is question for you in the box, and it says in DC fast charging, CPOs have varying tariffs ranging between 18 rupees per unit to 25 rupees per unit. And of course, the cost depends on investment and recurring expenses. However, with your experience, can you give us an idea regarding the price per unit, which sort of generates maximum consumer demand?
Yeah. Thanks, Priyanshi. So yeah, the pricing of every unit of electricity that has to be dispensed from these chargers depend on a lot of variables, correct? Where the charger is, what is the business goal of the operator, correct? What value added services that operator is providing with EV charging? Is it a restaurant, is it a workplace or similar places? But if you generalize over the larger scale for public EV charging, what we have noticed and understand and learn is that AC charging and AC fast charging basically are somewhere in the range of 17 to 18 rupees per unit. That's a good range for two-wheeler and four-wheeler AC fast charging. And when we go to DC fast charging for two-wheeler and four-wheeler, the pricing generally is around 22 to 25 rupees per unit. This also adds up on the GST part that's required for EV charging. So when you combine these, 17 to 18 somewhere around for two-wheelers, for AC charging, and 22 to 25 rupees is for DC charging.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And during the panel discussion, Mr. Sandeep had mentioned some criteria that you either have the resources or you have the
Yeah.
technical know-how. So there's a question, if there is a budding entrepreneur who doesn't have any, but they're willing to invest and start charging business. So how can Bolt help that person?
Yeah, actually, I'll say, but we are at a luxury spot where we have been working with a lot of partners in the entire EV charging ecosystem, from vehicles manufacturers to land and real estate developers and owners to investors. What we have is also understood and built a lot of repository of people who have real estate but do not want to invest, and people who want to invest but don't have real estate. People don't have money and real estate but have vehicles to charge. So we have an ecosystem of different types of people in different types of geographies and different types of use cases. So we of course have done these deployments in the past where someone wanted to invest money in EV charging business but didn't either had land or electricity or even understanding of which vehicles will charge. We help them connecting with the right partners whose real estate we can use, and where there's a electricity availability is there. We utilize these locations to invest charger in a tri-party agreement and get these done for them. So of course, these solutions are also feasible as an investment option directly.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I think we if there are any other questions that you as panelists find, I understand there are a lot of questions that are sort of duplicate, and some of them have been covered during this Q&A session. There are some which have become redundant because of they've already been covered. But if there is something, I'm quickly going down the the questions. I think there are still 7-8 questions that are open, but I see most of them have been covered either during the presentation or during. Yeah, so there is one. I think we'll take one last question, unless you guys pick up any question on your own, and I'll ask Sandeep ji to please answer it. So, sir, today there is a lot of talk about integrating BESS and solar with EV charging stations. So, can you help us understand? Because right now, the very sustainability and profitability of standalone EV charging setup is in question. It's not it's not a done deal. There is a lot of factors like plug and that you explained. But then it coming up with another layer of investment in terms of solar and then energy storage. So do you think that is a way down the line, or is that the kind of line we should start thinking on? Can it also help make the profitability help the profitability of a charging station?
No, so that's a very good point, because see, the key argument against the environment friendliness of EVs is that the power is coming from the coal infrastructure. So, like, if you're using coal to generate electricity, then why not use petrol itself? So that's a very common argument which goes against EV. So I think there is a very clear understanding that we have to get into power generation which is also sustainable. So that is the background with which the BSS was meant to be integrated into the charging stations. However, two things. Number one, it is very, very useful if you do it through a small AC charger, which means if there is a small charger which is, let's say, 3 kilowatt or 7 kilowatt, you can use a solar rooftop to charge those, put that charger, use that charger, and that will work very beautifully, and it saves you a lot of cost. But it increases your capital expenses. So to that extent, the profitability gets delayed. But the operating cost becomes less because the power from the grid comes at 6 rupees, 7 rupees, whereas from the solar, it can be made available at 3 rupees, 4 rupees kinds. But if you have got a lot of money lying in it, then put it low OPEX and you can continue. But it is very impractical for entrepreneurs in this context for large size chargers to use with BSS. Because let's say 50 kilowatt charger, 50 kilowatt charger will need so much of space to put the solar panels and still not be enough to charge this, to use this for full charger. So I guess that is not for people like us who are into this entrepreneurship domain. It is very useful for large CPOs. It is very useful for large corporations to be able to. It's a technology demonstrator. It is not so much I would say, ROI machine right now. So ROI, the moment you put capex on battery and solar panel, the ROI gets pushed by a few more years. So it's not meant for a typical entrepreneur. It is meant to demonstrate how this thing works, and over a period, this is the way we want to go when things turn in that direction.
Understood. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. Muskan, Nitin, everybody, for helping organize this session today. I think I learned a lot, and I hope our audience also found value in all the talks and presentations. Thank you so much. We will try and continue to bring more such informed sessions to you. Thank you so much, and have a lovely rest of the day.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you
Looking
everyone for
forward to the
joining.
next time.